3rd and 7. And McCarron goes down the field, and it's caught and breathes in for the touchdown.
Two things in life that suck: death, taxes, 85 will always go.
Welcome to New Stripe City, a podcast for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie, and today is episode 13, entitled Bring On the Cutdown. So, starting things off, guys, I had a wonderful time at the Jags game. Went to Jacksonville, got to sit on the visitor side near the 20-yard line, had great seats, couldn't have asked for any better seats for the game. Enjoyed myself. Who Dey Nation was definitely in the building. We were repping. I almost want to call it the Who Dey halftime because there were Bengals fans everywhere around Jacksonville repping Who Dey Nation pretty hard. So I definitely enjoyed my time. But man, we got a bomb dropped on us with Brandon Tate being released. I was shocked myself. I really couldn't believe it. But Brandon Tate was a guy that a lot of people wanted to get cut anyway. He worked pretty hard. I will give him a little bit of credit. He worked hard and did whatever he could to keep his job. But it was definitely time for the Bengals and Tate to part ways. So, yeah, that was a real big shock. I'm pretty sure there's guys popping champagne and celebrating everywhere right now. But, yeah, they finally did it. Can't believe it. So, just some quick updates. Aside from the Tate cut, we also waived Mario Alford. It seems like it was an injury waive, so there is a chance that he could return to the roster, similar to what happened with James Wright a couple years ago. So we could look to see him back. We also cut a guy like Jeff Luke. That was a surprise to me. I mean, not too surprising, but the fact that we cut him this early, I feel like he kind of filled a little bit of a void for us at that fullback position. So, and with us being thin at tight end, it kind of was a head scratcher a little bit. But he was also cut. But there weren't really any notable cuts in this first one outside of Tate, to be honest with you. Andrew Billings was actually assigned to IR, so it looks like his season is done indeed. It seems like William Jackson III still may have a chance. There were a couple guys assigned to the PUP list. Brandon Thompson was one of them. So other than that, we just really had some minor updates. And with that being said, I can go ahead and jump into our announcements. So my announcements for this week, as you see, we clearly, finally updated our camera here. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a better visual. I wasn't really satisfied with the video quality that I was getting, so I had to tweak a couple things here and there, but hopefully you guys like the new video. So I hope it's really worth it. I know you guys were tired of looking at my Super Nintendo type videos quality, so we'll see how this goes. But other than that, the next thing that I want to announce is that during the season we will start to have our weekly shows, so you can look for those on every Tuesday and every Saturday of the actual regular season. So once the regular season kicks off, you'll be getting your New Stripe City dosage twice a week. I think for our off-season format, we might just stick to once a week just because things are typically pretty slow in the off-season. So that's what we've decided on. So stay tuned and get ready for more New Stripe City. So with those announcements being made, I also wanted to give a major shout-out to one of our New Stripe City fans. I mean, this guy went above and beyond and went through so many links to get us pictures from training camp, pictures and autographs. I mean, this guy just really went the extra mile for us. And I mean, I didn't expect anybody to go out and get pictures and get autographs and take videos for us. So I was totally appreciative of all of the hard effort that was put in. And I just want to thank Jeremiah Hopkins. I appreciate you, man, giving you a shout out here. Your videos that you were able to, get for us, the autographs, we truly appreciate it here at New Stripe City. We truly appreciate your efforts, man. I'm at a loss for words, man. I can't thank you more than enough, so I definitely had to give you a shout out, man. And if you haven't caught his videos, check out my previous episode where you will see tons of the action that he caught on film, man. Guys like AJ Green going up and mossing people, some pretty interesting stuff. Jeremy Hill, Giovanni Bernard, check it out, man. Tyler Boyd, CJ Uzama, you name it, Jeremiah pretty much captured it. So I just wanted to definitely end the announcements with a shout out to Jeremiah, man, for sure. Thanks for your support. And next we'll get into your favorite segment, Bengals Real Talk. So in Bengals Real Talk today, I'm going to discuss my experience at the Jaguars game, some of the goods, some of the bads. I'll also take a look at our final 53 roster, where we could see certain guys land. We'll also get into our last preseason game, which really isn't too important, but it's our last preseason game against the Colts. And then we'll also talk about some trade possibilities with Teddy Bridgewater out for the season. So we'll talk about some of those AJ McCarron possible trade scenarios that could come across this season. So with that being said, let me get into my trip to Jacksonville. So as you guys know, I told you a couple of videos ago and episodes ago that I was gonna take a trip to Jacksonville to catch our Cincinnati Bengals. I had to. I'm from Cincinnati. The Bengals were playing in Florida. There was no questions asked. I had to be at this game. The Jaguars were a pretty good team too, so I kind of wanted to see how this game would go. So I got my tickets, man, and I made sure that I sat on the visitor sideline. And I was looking at the tickets and the section, and I was like, okay, this is a decent little section or whatever. And so I get to the game, man, and we were literally 4, maybe 5 rows away from the field. It was crazy. Like, you could see everybody on the sideline. I could see everything up close. The Geo touchdown, for those of you who have seen my video, was right in front of me. It was like I could have spit on these guys. It was definitely one of the best experiences that I've ever had. Even though it was just a preseason game, it was still cool to be that close to our Bengals. So I saw guys on the sideline. I saw AJ. I saw Ced on the sideline talking to Big Wit. I saw our kickers and a lot of interesting guys. Pac-Man, he actually didn't play that game. I was a little bit upset about that. But I also saw guys like Tyler Boyd. And it's one thing to see these guys on video or wherever, but it's another to see them in person and during a game. So that was very interesting, man. I'd probably say it was probably one of my biggest, if I had to make my list. Now, mind you, I witnessed the very first win in Paul Brown Stadium, that Corey Dillon game against the Broncos. I was at that game where he broke the record. I probably put it under that one. But just seeing the red rifle, Jeremy Hill running out there. I mean, this game was a very good game. There were a lot of Bengals fans out there. I was actually being heckled during the game by some Jags fans that thought that I wasn't a legit Bengals fan. It was crazy. So, midway through the second half, I just looked up and I was just like, touchdown. Oh, you still, oh, okay. Yeah, they started to quiet down after a while, after those points got on the board. There was one time where Jeremy Hill was getting ready to rush in a touchdown, and he was talking trash about him. And I said, oh, we're good. We're good. And then, he scored. So it was definitely a great experience, man. I sat next to a couple of Bengals fans. There were more than you would actually think, believe it or not, in Florida. So it definitely was a great experience. One thing that kind of messed with me was when AJ got hurt. It was crazy because me being so close, I saw him get hurt. And what kind of baffled me is that the coaching staff didn't notice it, and the coaching staff didn't have a sense of urgency to take him off the field. Now, there's a lot of things going on in the game, so I can't completely fault the coaching staff. But if I was able to see that AJ Green was hurt, noticeably limping, and needed to come off of the field, I don't understand how one member of the staff or somebody in the press box did not get the memo. I mean, the guy stayed on the field and ran another play, and it was obvious that he was hurt. And I was like, this is preseason. Get him out of there. So aside from that, man, my overall experience was great, man. It truly was great. But some of the positives from the game, I would say that I think that the running game was a huge positive in this game. Jacksonville looked pretty good on defense with Malik Jackson against the run, but we were still able to dominate them in the trenches and have a good quality performance from both running backs, Gio and Jeremy Hill. So it was good to see those guys. It was good to see Gio get spread out in the passing game and line up at the split end position and catch a screen. I mean, there was a lot of creativity in this game, and for the lack of resources that are there now, the Bengals played very well. I mean, they played well on both sides. Geno Atkins was a monster. He dominated Luke Jokel all night. We didn't hear too much from Tyler Boyd, but it wasn't an issue. Cody Core had a pretty serviceable night. Alex Erickson did. So these other guys were stepping it up. I'd probably say some of the bads were that CJ Uzoma had some good plays, some good blocks, but he has been falling short in terms of making those solid plays and being a dependable player. So I'd like to see a lot more from him. We also got to see Brandon LaFell, who looks like he'll be a pretty solid veteran option this year. He made a couple of catches near the sideline. AJ McCarron was another positive. He looked very good as usual. We're used to seeing AJ McCarron play pretty solid, so that was another positive. Now, I have been a little harsh on Drake Kirkpatrick. I will give Drake Kirkpatrick kudos in this game. To me, he was the biggest positive out of this game. I mean, that play where the guy defended that there was like a pass towards the touchdown and Dre deflected it. I mean, I have to give him kudos there. Dre stepped it up. I mean, and this was a game where we couldn't play with Adam Jones, and our secondary was clearly weakened, and he definitely stepped up to play. So if he can play like that this year, then we will be saved because we need him. I mean, Denard sat out this game as well. We had Checkwood Brown out there in Chikey Brown out there in like the first half. It was horrible. I was praying that the Jaguars didn't target Allen Robinson more. I'm surprised that they didn't. That guy was not too good. I'd say that Chris Lewis Harris, he didn't play bad, but he was very average. He missed a few tackles, but he wasn't too bad. As far as his pass coverage and everything, he really performed okay. Not great, but okay. I'd also say on the defensive side of the ball, those guys were getting after it. I mean, for the most part, the Jaguars could not run to save their lives against the Cincinnati defense. So it was great to see our pass defense and rush defense hold up against an up-and-coming team. But this game definitely showed how legit we are and how much of a team the Jaguars are and what position they're in. They're rising, but they're not there at that level yet. We've kind of been there, done that already. So overall, I think that Jags game was one of the best games of the preseason. I mean, it's the third preseason game, so everybody gets in and has their fair share of snaps. So it was good to see that. One thing that I will say that kind of worried me was the fact that after AJ Green kind of went out with an injury, it almost was like a question mark at wide receiver. We saw James Wright get some snaps in there. We saw some other guys get some snaps, but there wasn't really that guy like Tyler Boyd has been that really just stepped up and was like, okay, I'm that guy. So that kind of worried me. But other than that, all in all, I'd say it was a great game and performance, even though it was a loss, which, like I said, that was after Licata got in and threw, I don't know how many pick sixes, but other than that, all in all, a great performance. So, moving on, I will get into the AJ McCarron, Teddy Bridgewater trade that I believe that should happen. Okay, so we've been talking about an AJ McCarron trade for the longest. He's a great quarterback. He's an even better backup, but the Minnesota Vikings have lost their quarterback Teddy Bridgewater to a knee injury for the entire season. This is the type of situation where I could see the Cincinnati Bengals finally pushing for a McCarron trade, or at least being more open to it. The fact that Mike Zimmer has a previous relationship with this front office, with this owner, the fact that he's more of an ally, even though he's gone away and he's coaching another team. He's still well liked in the Bengals community. So I think that this was a trade that would make sense for both sides. However, you have to ask yourself, what is the asking price for an AJ McCarron? In my opinion, now this is just me, I don't know what the Bengals are thinking. In my opinion, there's a weakness at wide receiver that must be addressed. Okay? Now, you've got a young and up-and-coming receiver over in Minnesota by the name of Stephon Diggs, who also was a late-round pick. To me, I would have to say, in order for McCarron to be involved in any type of deal, I have to be receiving Stephon Diggs back in return. Okay? So, he's probably honestly, he is their best receiver. But when you look at it, without Teddy Bridgewater, that's irrelevant. Like, who's going to throw the ball to Stephon Diggs now? Nobody. And a quarterback is more important than a wide receiver. So, I probably want to get Stephon Diggs and possibly a 4th round or 5th round pick. I wouldn't mind that. There could be AJ McCarron in a 7th for Stephon Diggs. I wouldn't mind that. But if they were willing to part with Stephon Diggs, they just drafted Treadwell. They still have Kyle Rudolph. They still have Cordero Patterson, who's horrible, but I wouldn't want us to take him for AJ McCarron. And they still have AP. So you're lessening your talent in one area that isn't as pressing of a need, but your most pressing need at the moment at quarterback would be fulfilled. So I would say you definitely have to start in the area of Stephon Diggs. If not him, you're looking at some draft compensation, and that's not really the mindset that we should be in right now, because if that's the case, if we're just getting draft picks, unless it's like a 1st rounder or something, you need to keep AJ McCarron as a security blanket. He's worth more as a security blanket than just a simple draft pick, in my opinion. Unless there's someone else on their team that could fill that need, maybe a defensive end that they have over there that they're willing to part with. But it's a quarterback position, so a guy like AJ McCarron, I feel like is worth the asking price of a Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs isn't by any means an elite receiver, but he's an up-and-coming receiver. So I think that it would be an even exchange if you get a guy like Stephon Diggs over here with an AJ Green and a Tyler Boyd. Man, good night. Kiss those receiver problems goodbye. I could only imagine how that would go. But I think that this trade does have a chance. I think this is the best chance for this scenario to actually happen. So I definitely would keep an eye out on what exactly is going to happen. We know that Mike Zimmer is going to have to reach out to our team to see what's going on. They were just here for a joint practice. It almost makes too much sense. Unless he is able to get a Josh McCown somewhere else, I would say that the Bengals need to at least sit at the table and see what's being offered. So with that being said, let's get in on this final 53. So the receiver position is what kind of intrigues me, because I really want to see what they're going to do there. We saw what Alex Erickson could do. He's lighting it up again, catching touchdowns in preseason games. I'm not surprised, and honestly, he's probably, for the most part, the reason that Brandon Tate is no longer here. But there's a guy like Rashawn Simmons that's still on the roster, and I'm a fan of him, but I didn't really get to see him play as much. So Where is he going to be at? Is he going to be on the practice squad? I think he, for the most part, is going to be on the practice squad. But there's other guys that there are a lot of question marks on, and I really want us to cut Marcus Hunt, but it's almost like, who do you cut him for? In my final 53, I believe that Hunt gets cut. Maybe we can ship him off somewhere else for somebody as fool's gold. I don't know if anybody even really wants Marcus Hunt. I don't know who's that desperate. Maybe the Saints, they're trash on defense, so maybe we could throw something, a guys over their head for Marcus Hunt. I don't know. I just really want Marcus Hunt gone, honestly. To me, honestly, I'd rather have him gone more than Brandon Tate, to be honest with you. He's like the Brandon Tate of defensive ends. He needs to go. But at least Brandon Tate had solid production. Well, not solid, but average production. This guy isn't even average. But it looks like he's going to have every chance to make the roster. I need to see a little bit more from some of our other reserves, but other than that, man, this final countdown is going to be very interesting. I think another position to look at is going to be corner. Can they really keep a guy like Cheike Brown? I don't think so, but they're very thin at corner. I really wanted to see what they're going to do in that secondary. Darren Smith is coming on. He looks like he's solidified his roster spot. And there's a couple other guys here and there. The offensive line is also going to be an interesting battle to see who gets to stick and who's going to go. I think that with a recent release of a guy like Ruben Randall, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bengals put in a claim or at least try him out to see what this guy has left. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't mind a Ruben Randall on the team, even if it was just an experiment. You're talking about a guy that caught 7 or 8 touchdowns last season. I will take it. I don't even care. Give him a 1-year prove-it deal. Let's see what he can do in stripes. Other than that, I think some other players, like Marvin said, from other teams that have been cut recently could find their way to Cincinnati. So I think we'll have to wait and see after the second wave of cuts and who Cincinnati kind of goes and picks and chooses from that pile. But I think that this final 53 is far from being decided at this point. So with that being said, we'll jump into our last game, the Indianapolis Colts game. It seems like every year, I swear it's like every year we play the Colts in the preseason, and it's always like either the third or the last game. And I mean, this one isn't. This game doesn't matter. I mean, just to be honest with you, this game doesn't matter. I don't really see too many people really playing that actually will make the roster. Other than that, man, I really don't understand the meaning of this last game. Like, the third game was the dress rehearsal. So unless someone does something amazing, I don't understand what's going to happen there. I mean, you're going against a guy like Andrew Luck for maybe one snap. He might not even play. The way that their offensive line has been playing this preseason, I doubt that Andrew Luck will even see a snap. And some of these injuries that we've had occur, like Tony Romo, I doubt guys will really put their stars on the line for this last game. So, I mean, it's really like a game. I mean, I'll be tuned in as usual, repping Who Dey Nation, but I really see it as being like a bum bowl for this last game. But I'm really excited and looking forward to week 1. We have New York week 1. I can't wait to see what wrinkles we have. It seems like Tyler Eifert is going to be out from 4 to 6 weeks, which I pretty much assumed that, honestly. I didn't think that Eifert was going to be able to come back at the beginning of the season. So it'll be interesting to see how things kind of fold out. And I think that we're going to get a good start to this season. It's a challenging first couple of games, but it's still an opening that I feel like if we can come out this thing either at 500 or above 500, we've got a pretty good chance to finish this season strong. So with that being said, I will see you guys after our last preseason game. And like I said, be on the lookout for these to come two times.